Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joan Fitzpatrick, and with my colleague Kathy Orr, we both work in Bray Adult Learning Centre for KWETB and Further Education and Training, and we are going to co-present this presentation this morning on, I suppose, our experience of working with blended learning over the last couple of months. So we have divided the presentation into 5 sections. We're going to look at induction, the importance of a learning platform, the type of how you might manage your content, how to assess learning, and then looking at some examples of collaborative class activities. So starting with induction, I suppose, you know, a big feature of our experience when we made the transfer to teaching online was that those students who had already had some experience of digital technology, of using a learning platform, found it much easier to make the transfer with us and to manage the online learning. So as a result of that, we know now that, okay, if you want to move on there, Kathy. We know, yeah, you know, that how we learn has changed overnight, you know, so we're going to have to think about that. But that what's going to be really important in the autumn is that we have a good induction plan ready to support new learners coming to learning. So we now, I suppose, again, you know, we're working on digital technology. Do you want to move on there, Kathy?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Can I move that on, or? That's
no.
okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, sorry. And you know, we're aware that there are people coming to our centres who don't have smartphones, but the reality is that most of our students now do have smartphones, have some form of digital technology. So this presentation really is geared towards those students who will be able to access our blended learning. Okay, so the first thing to be very aware of is that very often how the students see our content is not how we as tutors. I know that was a big learning for me because I work on a PC all the time. And so, we advise tutors to sign into their apps and their learning platforms as students as well, so that, you can see what they're seeing. And this is just an example here of the learning platform that we use. And on the right side there, the pink side, you can see the tutor view. On the left is the student view. So, the tabs are in different places. How you navigate the interface is quite different. So, it's important that we know what our students are seeing, that you can maybe even mirror screencast your own, phone or whatever, so that when you're helping people, when they're getting stuck or getting lost, that you're talking to them about the interface that they're working on. The second thing that was, a huge thing for us in bringing our students online was having a learning platform. And I know that, we're talking about moving to Moodle and Teams, and there's all sorts of new and exciting opportunities coming up for us. We've been using Edmodo, but whatever, the platform is, I think the important thing is that it's accessible, and that it's easy for the learner to get into and to use. So the learning platform for us was an online classroom. This particular one, the interface was like Facebook. It was easy to work with, and having a platform means that everything is in one place. It's also a way where learners can communicate with tutors. So they're talking to you through the learning platform instead of having to text people on home phones, or things like that you don't want to be doing. And learners can store their work and work on it and edit it. Okay, so again, this is just an image from the learning platform. It's also a place where we can post videos. So at the risk of repeating myself, it's a tap and go. One tap, the learner is into their platform, and then everything is there. The videos, the links. There's a quiz feature, and most of those learning platforms now have quiz features. And it's a place where students can store their work, talk to their tutors, talk to each other. The student feedback on this particular learning platform was that it was easy to use, everything was there, and they also had an opportunity, if they were getting stuck with work, that they could message the tutor and know that they were going to be, that they would get a response. So, ease of access for the learning platform is really important, that we're not creating another barrier for our learners. Right, I'm going to hand you over to Kathy, who's going to have a look at the content.
Thank you, Joan. So looking at the content, I might be teaching a beginner English ESOL class, QQI level 2 reading. They may have literacy issues. You might be teaching level 4 computer applications to students who are hoping to head off to college soon. But essentially, our jobs are the same. We are introducing students to a new learning topic. We're supporting them to understand the topic and to develop a real working knowledge around the area, so that they're able to use their new knowledge and apply it to new situations. So how do we introduce new content in a remote learning setting or a blended learning setting? That was the kind of change that we had to think about when lockdown started. So luckily, through our European programs, we'd been introduced to the flipped learning approach, and we found it was a really good fit for these circumstances, because our virtual classroom sessions were so short that we felt they were best used actively, where the students were talking to each other, working with material, having interactive activities, and that then the delivery or the presentation of new content was best reserved for them to do at home, so that they weren't using a virtual classroom session to be sitting passively listening to new material. So our understanding of the flipped learning approach is that you set up a new topic briefly in the virtual classroom session, or if we're back to face-to-face, then in a face-to-face session, but mostly from the point of view of telling the learners what they're going to see and what they're going to work through, and making sure that they can access, whether it's a text document or a video or whatever you're putting up for them to work through, that they feel comfortable, they'll be able to access at home. And then you leave it to the learners to work through the content themselves at home, and learn about the new topic themselves, so that then when they come back to you for the virtual classroom session or the face-to-face session, that they're armed with some knowledge, and that you can put them to work about learning actively with the new content. So how do you present content at home for learners? It's got to be clear and really easily accessible, because there may not be anybody at home to support learners to access the content. And anyway, people want to be independent. They want to learn, they want to access the content themselves. So what's worked really well for us are short videos, 2 to 3 minutes max, maybe on one theme, one little topic, standalone area, and very clear and easy to access. I haven't used these yet, podcasts, but I'm determined. I've made a promise to myself to roll these out in September, because I like the idea of students doing the ironing, doing the dinner, and maybe listening to a little bit of new information. And maybe they mightn't have time at that time to sit down and watch a video or read a document, but that, they could be learning kind of incidentally to doing other things. And I'm going to take you through a few of the other means of delivering content. So here's just a little slide. By the way, we're going to copy and paste this presentation into the questions and answers, I think, or we'll deliver it some way to you. And it has links embedded in it, which is, you see where you can hover over the hand, so you'll get a little bit more information on some of the tools, because we haven't really got the time to tell you blow by blow all the different tools, so we're just introducing our approach really. So the instructional videos, we found them really useful We've put a lot of them up on our YouTube channel, which there's a link to at the end, and a lot of them on our centre's website. If you feel that they would be useful to you in your context, then that would be great if they're getting a run out in another area. So, and there are many tools to make instructional videos. Essentially, the easiest way we have found is that you record yourself talking over a screen. So talking over a PowerPoint, talking over a Word document, and that you use a screen recording feature to do that. So there's lots and lots of ways to do that. I've got comfortable using a tool called Screencast-O-Matic for my PC screen, and then if I'm trying to demonstrate something on a mobile phone, then I record my mobile phone screen with an app called A to Z Screen Recorder. And the feedback from the videos has been very good, that people feel they're getting a depth of understanding of the topic because they can go over it as many times as they want. Another way you could put your handouts up if you don't want to use a Word or a PDF document, you want to make them a little bit more accessible online, is an app, a website called Book Creator. So you can copy and paste your handout into Book Creator. Here's a sample for QQI Level 3 Digital Media, our student handout. So I copied and pasted it into Book Creator. You can give the students this open URL link and they're straight into the book, and for accessibility there's a read.
Media are different methods of communication.
So there's a read to me feature. I hope you can hear that. So it makes it, you can put any content up this way. So that's Book Creator. Here is ThingLink. So this was created by my colleague Pat Shane. She was giving her students a virtual tour around Wicklow Harbour. So instead of lots of different web links and you're having to go into lots of different links to find information, it's all collated there in one interactive image, and there's an explanatory voiceover just explaining how to navigate around the image. So that's ThingLink. You can put in videos, you could put quizzes in. She's got a bit of the history, a bit of the geography, little pieces of text.
Wicklow Harbour is a beautiful spot.
So you can have sound effects. So you can see you can create a very nice way of presenting a new topic through ThingLink. Okay, so you've given out some new content for students to go over, but we all need a little bit of an incentive, a little motivator to actually do our work sometimes. So along with putting up the new content, we always put an activity up alongside it. So you can put that in your virtual learning environment as a link just underneath the content. Some way of students being able to measure whether they've got a handle of the new information, and also most of these quiz and activity apps provide a report for the tutor to see, has the student completed the quiz and how have they got on with it, so that the tutor gets a measure of how to tailor the next time they come face-to-face or virtually face-to-face with the students. So Google Forms and Microsoft Forms do almost exactly the same job. You can give the students a link to a quiz. You can set the quiz up as self-marking if you use true-false questions or multiple choice, or then they get the score instantly, or you could have open questions and you could come along and mark them and give feedback afterwards. Edpuzzle is a great way of making a video into an activity. There's a little link to more information about it there. You can insert questions into a video, so the student has to stop, read the question, maybe review that little portion of the video to get the answer, type in the answer before they can move forward. And I'm going to show you Nearpod now. Oh, Nearpod's disappeared. Okay, so there's Nearpod. So I really like Nearpod because it's almost a standalone lesson in itself. You've got presentation, you can present new content, and then you can add an activity to the end. This one was created by my colleague Mary Collin, who's teaching beginner ESOL learners, and so she's talking over a Word document, and she's recorded the screen while she's doing that. So she's introducing the vocabulary first of all. You can upload videos to Nearpod, and they can be videos you've made yourself or external videos as well.
Going shopping. Today is...
So she's given them a little reading piece. They could turn the sound down, have a go at it themselves, repeat, you know, use it as often as they like. And they're just, it's an open link. The student types in their name, and then Mary's able to see how many of them worked with the material, how they got on with the activities. You could build it up with slides, almost like PowerPoint slides. So here is the activity that she put to go with it, where you're developing familiarity with your reading vocabulary. So a little matching activity. And there's other activities that you can add, and you can build them in Nearpod. So here's just another example I'll show you quickly of, this is QQI Level 3 Internet Skills, developing familiarity with, as Joan was saying in the previous webinar, that whole new language of technology terminology. So the first slide is just me talking over a web page to explain the browser buttons. Then I've added in a little video.
Goodwill Community Foundation, creating opportunities for a better life.
From GCF that explains all about the browser buttons. Then I have a reading piece that students can read alone, or I have done a voiceover for it as well, just introducing the back button, forward button, the refresh button. And then there is a fill in the blanks activity. So it works on mobile devices, it works on any device. It is a little bit fiddly on a phone, but that was the student feedback, that they still managed it. And that element of gamification, if you like, where you'll work away at something until you get 6 out of 6, you know, that really students quite like that, the idea that you can have as many goes as you like, and that you feel this idea of success. Okay, so then just quickly, we've put some content up, we've put an activity around it to get students to engage with it, and now we have an idea when we're coming back to the classroom of the understanding and what we need to work on. So just a few ideas of things that have worked in the virtual classroom for us, the virtual classroom session. Discussions, you might give people 2 different themes to do a little bit of research about, and then they could come back and share their knowledge. Role plays for ESOL, and there's the possibility of breakout groups in Teams coming up soon, so you could break them into groups to do their role play. Shared whiteboard activities. I'm going to show you Padlet, and then Mentimeter is a great little tool. You can make a Menti quiz. You can paste the link into the chat when you're in your virtual classroom session, and students can follow it and can answer questions about maybe just how they're feeling on a particular topic, and you can get feedback that way. It's anonymous as well, which is nice, and people can share their opinions freely. So the discussions, as I say, work well, and just thinking about maybe new groups, and we might have to meet them in virtual classroom sessions. So here's just visuals might work well, I'm thinking, for potentially for icebreaker or induction sessions, that you'd put up an icebreaker, or it could be used further along in a course. You might get students to think about the technology positives and negatives and make some notes, and then come back to you to have a discussion in the virtual classroom session. You can might have some little talking points there to stimulate a discussion. Some other ideas, there's an ESOL class where when they're coming to you and setting their aims, their hopes and their expectations for the year. Do they want to work on their writing? Do they want to work on their listening and speaking? So that might be just putting up a visual, might be an idea of how you could generate a discussion that way. So I'm just going to give you some examples of topics that I've taken from start to finish with my learners in lockdown, and how they worked in a virtual way. So, and then Joan's going to, I'm kind of working at a pre-level 3 situation, and Joan will look more at level 3 and level 4. So I was working with a digital skills group. We had all our QQI certificate work finished, and so we were starting a taster, 6-week taster course really in preparation for hopefully some more level 3 modules in September, particularly IT modules. And as Joan was saying in the last session, the technology terminology is, and the theory, and this whole new language is sometimes the most difficult part of the course. So just wanted to try a little bit of this out so students would get familiar with the name of a keyboard key and its function, and might put some strategies in place for building on that to develop more technology terminology and strategies for learning the theory. So first of all, I got the students to watch a video at home that I put up on the learning platform. It was made by my colleague Patricia Handley, and it just takes students through the name and the function of some of the frequently used keys on the keyboard. Then the next thing I did was, well, at the same time, I supported learners to put the Quizlet app on their phone, and then they were working away on that activity after they had, I'll just go into Quizlet here, after they had watched the video. So Pat and I made this Quizlet set. It includes an annotated diagram, so you hover over the key and you get the term and the definition. Then there's lots of activities. You can work through the flashcards, is the front of the card and the back of the card. For accessibility, there's
Caps lock. To type everything in capital letters.
so you can work through the flashcards, becoming familiar with the name and the function, and then there are lots of activities you can do. Just quickly show you the match activity. So you hover over the keyboard, you choose a key, and then nearly got that one wrong, and then you have to. There's lots of different activities that you can work through in Quizlet, and the student feedback was great. We all have a slight competitive edge to us, and they liked the fact that there's a league table and a podium, and if you try the activities and you get faster, you can knock other people off the top. So that way you're kind of embedding your learning with it still being active and enjoyable. So I let them work away at that for a week, and then I put a Google Forms quiz up. So just simple questions. What key would I tap to type a heading in capital letters? What key would I tap to get a new line? And I get the feedback as well as the students, and you can see they could try it as many times as they wanted. So there was 16 attempts, and you can see that this key is really well understood. 15 out of 16, everybody knew what the caps lock key did, whereas this one might require a little bit more clarification in class. So that's where your reports come in. It can be quite handy to tailor what you're going to focus on in your classroom. And then when we felt we had the topic nailed, I put up a Padlet activity. Padlet is just a notice board that you can stick labels to, or photos or anything that you like. So I sent the link in the virtual classroom, just pasted it into the chat, and I made the Padlet just by giving it a name, putting an instruction, work together to label the keyboard, a picture of the keyboard, and then the students worked together to put their own labels on the keys and talk about what they did. And it was a very enjoyable activity, sort of a celebration of how the learning was accomplished and that it was all achieved. So we've also used Padlet throughout the whole of the time in the virtual classroom as a kind of a journal or a diary. It's a digital skills class, so students have been working on learning about taking photos, how to find them, cropping photos, sending photos, adding captions. So that's been an ongoing journey, and you can see they've made this only a small portion of it. They made a really colourful diary of anything interesting that's happened during the week, and it's been a great talking point. And my final example is, again, the same group. So we were taking requests at this stage because, you know, the QQI work's done, and you can really, you can work on things that people are interested in. So there's one particular student who was very tired of standing at the bus stop in the rain, and wanted to know exactly when to go out when the bus was coming. So you can check that on Google Maps by typing in the bus stop number. So I made a video explaining that just by recording my mobile phone screen and adding captions, and I put that up on the learning platform. And then the activity was made really simply in the comment section underneath the video. Check the bus time to bus stop 2039, where is it, what number would take me back to Bray? And then you could see the students were engaging and working with the app, and then once they had done that one successfully, I put another one up. I'm lost. I'm bus stop 4320. Where am I, and how do I get back home? So it's very quick to make, and it's again, it's just another suggestion for how you could make an activity. So that's just a summary, which I won't go through, of things that I feel have worked well at a pre-level 3 level in a blended learning setting. I'm just going to hand over to Joan now for examples at level 3 and 4.
Okay, I suppose just to preface, I'm going to say that I'm not quite as techie as Kathy. So when we made this move online, I had to kind of stop and think, okay, what are the tools that I'm comfortable with, that I know will work for me? And the big thing initially for my level 4 communications group, those who made it online, was to, you know, for people to be able to move from Zoom and navigate, you know, around different tabs on the browser, because initially when it was taken, you know, 35 minutes to log into Zoom, nobody was leaving Zoom then after that. Nobody was going anywhere else. So the first thing was to support the students to be able to find their virtual classroom, the virtual platform, and then after that everything was possible. So in terms of skills development during class time, I would do a little bit of teaching with the group, but we would use instructional videos like this one here that the students can access through their learning platform, and quizzes to assess their learning. I would have quizzes at different levels so that, you know, students, if they need to listen back over the video, you know, can work away. It's sort of self-directed learning in the classroom, and I'm getting the feedback from the quizzes as they're coming in. So that works well in a classroom setting, and then obviously they have those videos to go over at home for work that they're working on at home. All right. The other thing that I found really useful in this setting is Padlet. It's something that I was aware of but wouldn't have used a huge amount in the physical classroom, but now that we're all on a screen, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And in this particular example, the group, they're reading a short story, and so we had just done a little bit of prep work in class to set them up for, you know, working on it at home. And their focus for pre-reading was because there was a huge cast of characters and different generations in the family, to be clear on who was who in that story. Now they also had a Google quiz, you know, a pretty basic Google quiz, so that I could see by the time they came back to class the next week that they all had a handle on, you know, the outline of the story. And so in class then we used Padlet, and you can see down in the corner of the screen there's a little pink circle, there's a plus in that, and all they do is they click on the plus, and it opens a little text box where they can. So initially it was just, you know, put up the names of everyone you remember from the story. So we were, you know, firing up names, and then their next task then was to give me a little bit of information, what they could remember about each of those characters, and in the case of the family. And the great thing about Padlet, because they have access to it from their learning platform, everybody can manage the screen. So we could pull those boxes around, arrange a family tree, and then pull all the other secondary characters to the side. So they had a kind of a visual of the characters in the short story by the time we come to the end of that activity. It's also, you know, Padlet gives really good opportunities for that kind of informal writing, you know, where you're not thinking about punctuation or spelling or whatever. That's really good, you know, for stronger level 3s or level 4 groups to really develop their writing confidence, to stop looking over their shoulder to see, you know, who's looking at their writing, that they can just put it up and not be stressing about it. So, you know, as we mentioned in Niamh's presentation earlier, you know, giving learners opportunities to write like that informally, and in that sort of public forum was really good. So Padlet I find really useful at the start of a new topic. To kind of gather the wisdom in the room, you know, when you're starting something new and it's okay, let's see, what do we know about this already, so we can establish a kind of a base point from which we take off. For brainstorming, for new ideas, for a writing topic, for when they work in their small groups, and we've tried that as well now online, so that they can give their feedback on that, and it's a useful kind of recap or feedback platform at the end of class as well. And then in the case of this, because this was a little revision piece, I could post that back to Edmodo, so they have that then as a kind of a revision at the end of class. So Padlet is great, and you know, it covers a multitude, you know, of points really in terms of learning and writing. Okay. The other thing that, you know, I just kind of became aware of was like on our learning platform, and I'm sure on all learning platforms, you know, there's a messaging feature, and I would have used it for giving feedback to students and things like that. But in this setting, you know, where a sort of a teachable moment arises in class, it may be something that you haven't got work prepared for because it wasn't something you were planning to do, but this is something that you kind of want to work on right now. And so I could pop a question or, you know, a couple of things on the PowerPoint slide, and students are responding to it on the messages tab. So I'm kind of getting a rolling feed of responses, so I can organise feedback as the work is coming in. And again, maybe particularly at a level 3 level where they might be a little bit more anxious about their writing, and not everybody wants their answers always in a public forum. This is another way of getting responses and encouraging writing in different forums and different settings. Quizlet, again, Kathy has gone through Quizlet with you, so you know, I'm not going to talk an awful lot about it, but I would have used it as you know, as something for individual work. It would have been something that I would have set up. We'd use it for grammar, for spellings, for vocabulary. It's also really useful for the theory, for anybody who's doing, you know, definitions, new language for IT, or any module that has I use it for team working. And obviously the language tutors use it. And we would have, students would have worked on Quizlet exercises at home. It was a way for them to practice their skills and you know, assess their own learning. But again, because we're all on a screen now, I'm just going to click into it. No, it's not going to be interactive for me, but I found it useful as a group exercise. Kathy, if you click into the Quizlet there, will that? Oh, okay, I lost the interactive, that's okay. But just some of the, like the test feature in it and the flashcards feature, they are handy. If you go into Quizlet, you'll see what I'm talking about. They work well as a class exercise where students can tell you, you know, what to write in that part of the exercise. So it's just as a quick revision, I found that it's something I can do in a class setting that I wouldn't have done before, maybe. Okay. Okay, so, and I suppose the other thing that I haven't put in there, because when I was putting this together, I was just thinking that, and I only did it in my class yesterday, but I hugely miss, you know, being able to do small group work, because I think that's really important in terms of developing language and getting, you know, giving students an opportunity to talk to each other, to use the language, and then to feedback and to practice that informal writing. So I was looking forward to Teams and, you know, next year and being able to do that. And then I just realized, you know, that actually the group I have is a small group. Like, you know, there's only 3 of them who've stayed with me, and all I needed to do was to turn the volume off on my laptop. So I put a question on Padlet, turned off my volume, and they could wave at me, you know. I went and worked away at something else, and I gave them 5 or 10 minutes to work on something and to feedback on Padlet, and it worked really well, and they really enjoyed that opportunity to talk to each other without me in the room, and to have that kind of level of communication. And I think, you know, it was lovely, you know, that the communication was going in a different direction, that it wasn't all one way. So I suppose, you know, Kathy has shown you a huge kind of smorgasbord of really wonderful tools. Like always in teaching, you know, what's important for us is that we know what's our purpose. And, you know, as you said, our purpose for us was creating classes that were, you know, interactive, that were, you know, where the students were doing the writing, the talking, they were talking to each other. That's kind of where we're going. And that, you know, the learning, you know, the heavy lifting in some respects is done at home in prep work, in videos or texts that they have access to at home, so that when they come into class, then it is active and self-directed learning. And that's kind of, whether you're doing that with one or two tools or with a whole host of tools, I think once you're clear on your purpose, you'll find the tools that will work for you. Okay. So I think that is the end of our presentation. So just to review it very quickly, what we've learned, I suppose, from our own experience is that, you know, having a good induction where students are able to access their apps into their learning platform, and what other, you know, key tools you feel are necessary, that they have them on their phone and that they're able to access them, and that we support them to do that on a one-to-one in the centres before, you know, we ask them to go online, that we have a good accessible learning platform, that the content is manageable and, you know, accessible across a variety of ways, of methodologies, that we have ways of assessing learning, and then that we look at, you know, how we're going to manage our collaborative class activities. And before I finish, I'd like to thank Ashley for her support in setting this up. She's been really good, and it's been wonderful for Kathy and myself to have this opportunity to share our learning. And there's been a lot of learning over the last few months. So thank you.
Ladies,
Yes.
thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic.
Sorry, Ashley, I just forgot to mention there, just at the top of that screen, there's some links to our Facebook page, Twitter and Instagram accounts, you know, where you'll see some of our news. But on the right is a link there to the YouTube channel that Kathy was talking about, where you can see some of the videos that we've been making. And down below it also then is a link to a website which Kathy put together at the start of all of this. So, you know, when we shut down and before we went online with our classes, we had this wonderful facility where we were able to create content, which, you know, she uploaded on the video, so that our students were actually learning in that hiatus between the shutdown and going back into classes again. We had content available for them, and that website is still there and available to learners and as a resource for our tutors. So it's worth having a look there just to see what's in that. All right, so thanks, Ashley. Sorry.
Thank you very much, ladies. Again, fantastic presentation. You know, it's really great to see all the hard work and kind of, I suppose, how you've been using technology to really provide learning opportunities for your students and keep the ABE service there in Brain Wicklow Town open. So very well done. You know, I know from speaking to the two of you as well that, you know, most of the content that you create is available online. It is open, and I think you're happy enough for people to have a look and check it out, and would encourage them to do
Indeed.
so.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
No, it's just reinventing the wheel. We always seem to have to make new content. So yeah, if anybody feels that a resource would be useful to them, that would be fantastic to and share ideas as well.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think it's important that we as professionals can share the load for each other as well. I would just like to highlight your fantastic interactive presentation there that you have on screen. It's great. I'd just like to point out that next Monday, myself and Kathy there will be taking a session on Genially. So that is on the calendar there. That's the tool that this presentation was created in. So if you'd like to find out more about creating interactive content or interactive presentations, or I suppose bite-sized lessons that students can navigate through themselves, please do check out that session. And Genially, kind of once you get to grips with the basics of it, it's actually really easy to put something that looks like this together. So I'm just having a look at the questions. I think you two covered everything so clearly. I don't have any questions in there at the moment, but I'll leave a couple of minutes for people to type something in if they want to ask a question or leave a comment. So if anyone would like to check out or review a copy of this presentation, we will pop a link to it directly onto the FETPD team. So you'll find that on the summer sessions tab. I'm trying to keep all the links together. So the link for the evaluation for the session, the content here that's on screen, if you want to kind of review that, that will be available in there. And then later this afternoon, the recording for this session will be available within the FETPD team as well. So I don't have any questions coming in there. Ladies, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, just thank you very much, Ashley.
Yes.
It's been, thank you for the opportunity, and I think the summer series is a terrific idea, and it's certainly, thank you for the invitation, because it helped to collate our thoughts about what had worked and what hadn't worked, and that's really useful going forward to September.
I'm delighted to hear that, and thank you both for coming on board. You know, you've made my job easier as well, so I really appreciate your time and the effort that you put into putting this presentation together.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to end that there. Thank you very much. If anyone wants to follow up with any questions, please do post them within the team site. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.